10, 9, ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. We have a liftoff. Liftoff on Apollo 11.
Welcome to the Orbit Sports Podcast presented by Shotgun Sports Network. I'm Frazier.
And I'm Daniel. Orbit Sports is powered by W Energy, the official fuel for staying locked in all game long. We're talking clean energy. No sugar, no crash, no nonsense. Just smooth focus. Whether you're breaking down game film, grinding on the job site, or calling out bad takes from the cheat seats. If you're trying to stay sharp from kickoff to final whistle, W's in your corner. Head over to w.gg and use code ORBITHSV. That's ORBITHSV to save on your order. W Energy, keeping your game in orbit.
This week, we're going to talk about the Rocket City Trash Pandas and their week against Knoxville. We're going to talk about the Huntsville Havoc and their playoffs against Knoxville. And we're also going to talk about the HCFC. And first, we're going to start with the Rocket City Trash Pandas.
The Trash Pandas traveled to Knoxville for an extended series against the Smokies starting on Tuesday. And this was a game where they really got dominated. They lost this game 14-6. And giving up that many runs, giving up 14 runs is like shooting yourself in the foot or putting a Band-Aid on a bullet hole. It just don't work. The second inning was really the killer in this game, with the Trash Pandas giving up 8 runs. 8 of the 14 runs came in the second inning. Osman was credited with the loss on the bump, pitching 1 1/3, giving up 8 runs on 8 hits with 1 strikeout and allowing 2 home runs.
So, what do you think ultimately he did that really what do you think, his energy was off, or?
I don't know. A lot of it, he didn't have a whole lot of walks in this match. And I just don't know if Knoxville just barreled him up. I mean, 8 runs on 8 hits, so obviously Knoxville did some things right as far as getting timely hits, but the 8 slot is really that's the killer, and giving up 8 runs in 1 1/3. I just don't know if maybe he didn't have his best stuff. He left some stuff over the plate. I'm unsure kind of what unraveled there for the Trash Pandas. I know Zabala continues to be a dominant force on the mound. He pitched 2 1/3 in this one, gave up 1 hit, 1 walk, and 4 strikeouts. So it seems like his stuff is really getting past the hitters, where maybe Osman could have just had an off day.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure what happened in that one. But the Trash Pandas didn't get timely hits in this one either. They went 0 for 8 with runners in scoring position and left 8 men on base. And again, that's not how you win ball games. Meckler led the charge with 5 total bases in this one, and McCroskey having 4 and a home run in the second inning. Meckler had the hottest bat on the team for this game. He batted a .667, followed by Rowdy Rodriguez with a .500 batting average. And I think that they just kind of wanted to get out of this one. I mean, that's a lot of runs to give up, to get dominated on the road in the first game. It's definitely a gut check after the good home opening weekend that they had.
So do you think on that night they were just testing what they had going into the week?
I don't know if they were so much as testing what they had. It just seemed that the bottom half of the lineup just couldn't produce when it came to the plate. And when you have 4 or 5 of your 9 hitters batting under 250, it's not a recipe for success in the slightest. On Wednesday, they kind of cleaned out things. Unfortunately, they would come out on the losing end again, 8-7. But we got there just by Knoxville kind of just finding a way to win at the end there. It was all tied up at 3 apiece in the 4th inning. The Smokies would add 1 and make the lead 4-3. And the Trash Pandas seemed to kind of get ahead and that they could start taking control of this one in the 5th inning, going up 5-4. However, that would be the end of production for the Trash Pandas. That'd be the last run that they had put on the board. And with the lead heading into the bottom of the ninth, it seemed like it was going to be enough for the Trash Pandas to get another one in the win column. However, the Smokies battled back. They would get 2 in the ninth and would steal this one away out from under the Trash Pandas 8-7. And one of the biggest stats that stood out to me was the number of strikeouts. They struck out 11 times at the plate. And again, I mean, that's 3 2/3 innings of just strikeouts. And I feel strikeouts can kind of be a big stat in this way, because if you're hitting the ball, but you're hitting them to people, or they're just making great defensive plays, you can kind of take that one as a club. 11 strikeouts is a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah, but we did see some moments where they did improve. The score was tighter.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was Knoxville was making less plays or just what, but even with 11 strikeouts, to have that close of a score, to me seems like it is very impressive to be like, hey, I have these horrible stats here, but we're keeping it close somehow.
And that just kind of credits really a lot of their dominant hitters in the lineup and just being able to go out there and compete. I think pitching was a lot better in this matchup. Costu really led the charge on the mound for the Trash Pandas. He went 4 1/3, gave up 4 runs on 6 hits, 5 strikeouts. He threw 75 pitches, 48 of those going for strikes. So he definitely let it rip in the strike zone and allowed the defense to make the plays behind him. That's all you can really ask for out of your pitcher. Go out there, throw strikes, let the defense work behind you. You got 7 capable bodies behind you. When you're ahead in the count, let's throw some off speed. Let's throw some breaking balls. Let's try to get some guys swinging. And he did a pretty good job of that. I mean, he averaged a little over 1 strikeout per inning. You can't ask for a whole lot more there. I just think that Knoxville is a very scrappy club that they've gone to show this season that they're not really out of any game, and they can definitely make a charge at the end to get some W's and steal some games away.
Yeah, so you think when the pitcher's really, really hot, that sets the bar for the rest of the guys out in the field?
I think it helps them a lot. I think when you have a pitcher that's really hot, he's throwing great strikes, he's getting a lot of guys to miss hit, not really barrel some balls up. I think it really helps out a whole lot as a team, much less as a pitcher, gaining that confidence, throwing that many strikes, throwing that many innings, not really giving up hardly any runs. I mean, 4 runs on 6 hits, not bad. He gave up 1 an inning. But realistically, the Trash Pandas have a dynamic offense. They can score runs, and in a hurry. On Thursday, the Trash Pandas, unfortunately, would drop another one, 8-7. Jordan was on the mound for this one, and he would pitch 5 1/3 innings, giving up 2 runs on 3 hits and 3 strikeouts, while also giving up 6 walks. And I kind of think that was the killer stat for him. Everything else looks good. I mean, he threw 84 pitches, 43 of those going for strikes. So you're just over halfway on your strike count. Again, I think that this was a good performance on the mound. I think that the defense played very well behind him. He faced 24 guys, so they went through the lineup 2.5 times. When you see a guy 2-3 times, you can really start honing in on what he's got, what his release points look like, and really start getting some hits here. The Trash Pandas would leave 8 on base and went 2 for 11 with runners in scoring position. So in the first 5 innings, we walk 6 guys. On the game, we leave 8 on base. We go 2 for 11 with runners in scoring position. These are not stats that win ball games. When you're giving up free bases, you're not getting timely hits. And it's just one of those things that I think they'll get better at as the year progresses. I mean, we're still very, very, very early in this season. But I think that they have to get better at hitting with runners in scoring position. Overall, over the weekend, and we'll dive into it a little bit more as we continue through this weekend, they did a really good job of moving runners. Stolen bases. There were tons of stolen bases over this series. And even had some third base steals, which is super hard to do unless he's a left-hander, and that guy on second better be lightning.
Yeah, so, up to this point before we get to the weekend, what do you think the coaches really had to work on with these guys? Just from what they saw from just Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
I think you just get back to the basics at this point. You tell the guys, be aggressive at the plate. Don't be afraid to swing the bat. You're not going to get a lot of looks. We're in a professional league. You've got to really just swing the bat, stay aggressive. Defensively, one pitch at a time. You have to make the plays that are given to you and just keep grinding. I don't think that there's another way to win and to really gain confidence in the team besides to just collectively as a group continue to grind. Gordon, again, on the mound, picked off Trice at second base, and he has a really great pickoff move. We've got to see it a few times this season, and I think that as we continue through this season and they start working a lot of these pickoff moves and they kind of eliminate runners that way while also shortening their lead. And shortening that lead can be the difference between a single, putting that guy on third base, or leaving him at second base and giving your defense a chance for a double play ball. The bottom of the lineup, again, they continue to struggle. 6 batters under 250 in this game. But as a team, they only struck out 5 times. So they're hitting the ball. It's just right at somebody. It's in the double plays. And it's just trying to find that groove. And sometimes, they talk about the baseball has eyes. Sometimes some of those balls get through, and then other times you barrel one up, you knock the laces off of it in a guy's glove. Another person that I want to touch on was Campero. This is a guy who can fly on the bases. And he's got himself 3 stolen bases so far this year coming with this game. And I think that this needs to be a very key point for the Trash Pandas moving forward. Stealing bases, getting guys in scoring position, even hitting runs. A lot of people devalue how important a hit and run is when you've got that guy at first. He's moving to second. The second baseman's moving over, and you open a huge hole on the right side that, you can get a lot of these hits to just kind of get through balls that would normally be hit right at your second baseman. You've got them out of position. And I think that that's something I would like to see more from the Trash Pandas is stolen bases and hit and runs.
So, other than Campero, who do you think is some of our faster guys that can steal bases?
Zakrowski. Zakrowski can fly. Flint's another one who can steal bases. They've got quite a few speedy guys on the team. A lot of it comes down to what pitcher you're facing. Whether it be a left-hander or a right-hander that's got a really slow kind of pitch to the plate, you can get a good jump on those guys. And I think that it comes down to base running, reading his first move and getting that good jolt soon as you see that ankle. Because that's what they tell you to read is the ankle. If the ankle's straight up, he can still make a spin. But as soon as that ankle makes that turn to where the hips turn to the plate, he's got to go to the plate. So you got to go. And in this game, the Trash Pandas, they came out looking like they were shot out of a rocket. Like they scored a lot of runs fast. 2 in the first, 1 in the second, 2 in the third. They had a 5-run lead heading into what at that time became a scoreless inning for both clubs. And they would score another run in the 5th, in the 6th. However, in the 6th inning, the Smokies would start kind of chipping away at this lead. They would get 3 in the 6th and make this a 7-3 ball game. We'd go to a scoreless 7th inning, and this would start to set up either a great win or a dramatic finish. However, the Smokies scored 5 runs and held the Trash Pandas scoreless in the 8th and 9th and sneaked away with that 8-7 win. Like I said, they're not, besides the first game, they're not getting blown out. It's just closing that door. I feel like that's where the Trash Pandas have struggled, even against Biloxi, allowing these teams to kind of creep back in. And I don't know if it's a pitching thing where they just don't have that guy that can slam the door on them. I haven't figured out what it is just yet.
So do you think over the time they're going to start to see who's not performing as well, and they're going to try to make roster moves?
Yeah.
Because we saw today they got a new pitcher.
Yeah.
So do you know anything about this new pitcher?
I don't know much about the new pitcher, and it's hard because when you've got guys that get called up from single A or higher A, you don't exactly know. Each A is a different level, right? Like it just progresses, and that's kind of how you work your way to the show. So it'll be interesting to see. But they definitely have some pitching woes that they need to figure out to make a run. Like I said, it's still early, and guys are still trying to find their groove and gel within even the pitching group collectively. Getting that kind of relationship with your catcher can be hard, and some team building, or at least in the bullpen side, I feel would definitely benefit the Trash Pandas at this point.
Yeah, but also being on the road adds to it. It's their first time on the road, their first long series.
Yeah.
So they're learning how to battle that.
Yeah, and I don't think overall to this point they did bad. I think that they had some really key moments, some learning moments, some things to build on. But I don't think, besides maybe Tuesday's game, that they played bad. I mean, they were in every game all weekend. On Friday, they bounced back to try and avenge the Thursday game and scored in more innings than they didn't. So again, they're getting the hits and they're moving guys around and they're doing the things that they need to do offensively. I feel that pitching is the real struggle for them right now, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just guys haven't found the groove yet, or kind of what it is. Jovan got the win for the Trash Pandas on the mound. He went 1 2/3 with 2 strikeouts. Joel was a dominant pitcher in this, and he had some really good stuff on Friday, and I think that this is a guy that they can lean on a little bit more. He tossed 4 1/3, giving up 4 runs on 6 hits and 5 strikeouts. So again, not a lot of hits, low runs, through 72 pitches, 46 of them going for strikes. So we're well over the halfway point of that. I just feel like this was a good outing, and they're starting to kind of find what pitchers they can lean on. 72 pitches in 4 innings is a little high for a standard, so to say, but I don't think you can really have a set standard. You can just kind of have an average.
Yeah, it feels like they were making Knoxville swing in this game a lot, making the pitch counts go up.
They did. They really did, and I think that's one of the things that Knoxville is really good at. I think their batters have really good eyes in fouling stuff off, and I mean that's kind of the thing that makes up a scrappy ball club is you see something you don't like, foul it off. Let's play for the next pitch. You know, when you get down 0-2, you kind of choke up on the bat a little bit. Anything that's close, foul it off. And you just keep battling. And it really does drive a pitch count up that way, especially if you have 4 or 5 really scrappy hitters that can make these 6, 7, 8, and plus pitches at bats. It's really hard. The 5th inning is where the Smokies kind of made this a close game, putting 4 on the scoreboard. Knowing how this Smoky team has been hitting the ball, they can put themselves in any game that you feel they're out of. They're super scrappy ball club, and they just find ways to put numbers on the board. And it seems that they're a really clutch team. They can fall behind, and they can rely on themselves to score runs in the late innings, 7th, 8th, and 9th. However, I will say that while that's a great attribute to have, it's also something that can fail you later in the season. A lot of teams will, they're used to, you get kind of complacent. Oh, I know, we've got this. We can come back. We can make the run. And while that confidence is great to have, it can burn you. It can lead to some losses. The Trash Pandas dominated when you talk about stolen bases with 4 and only 1 caught stealing. And again, this is, I tip my hat to the coaches of moving base runners. And that's really important to not hit into double plays and to give your guys more opportunities to get at-bats with runners in scoring position. You hit a decent single, a guy at second, he can score. And I think that they really proved that in this one by adding 1 here, 2 there, 2 here, 1 here, 1 here. The more you can put numbers on the board, obviously, the more chances you have to win.
This is one thing I feel like that they're going to really work on is stealing bases. Because if you see, just from when they started their opening weekend at home to going through, they're leaving so many on base. And there's just that potential that they can get more runners in. And
I don't feel like they stole a lot of bases in opening weekend. I mean, they had a few, but I feel like they really opened that side of their game up against Knoxville and moving those runners. And I think that's probably one of the takeaways they had after the Biloxi game was we've got to get our guys better opportunities for RBIs.
Yeah, because if you have 0 to 1 outs and you have a guy on first, he can steal second. You can do a sacrifice fly, and you can potentially get that guy in. That's something to take advantage of.
And we talked about guys that can really steal bases, and Meckler is another great base runner, and he gets a steal at second and third. So I'm curious to see how many he can rack up as we get later on in the year. And the Trash Pandas had 8 strikeouts with almost 40 at bats as well as 11 walks. So again, great job at the plate. You know, a fifth of your guys struck out, 11 walks, another great number. That's a lot of free runs there. When we move into Saturday, this was a really close game, and the Trash Pandas only left 2 men on base. Again, that's a category that you want to win almost every time. The least amount of guys you can leave on base, the more your opportunities are.
Well, going from Friday when they left 14 on base to 2, that is something I feel like the coaches are really working on to say, hey, we got to quit leaving guys on base. We won on Friday with 14 on base, but we can't do that all the time.
No, and we had Gonzalez on the mound for this game, and he went 6 innings, allowing 2 runs on 3 hits with 9 strikeouts. 87 pitches with 56 of them going for strikes. So again, a dominant pitcher on the mound, and this guy really, really, really brought his best stuff for this game. 9 strikeouts in 6 innings is a great stat to have. 2 runs in 6 innings is awesome. Only giving up 3 hits. This is a guy that's definitely getting ahead in counts and making some guys miss at the plate. I'm interested to see how his season turns out. Obviously, I would like for every player to do the best that they can and move up as far as they can. But I think that this is a guy that you want to see in a Trash Pandas uniform all year this year. The defense turned 2 double plays. And for this game, it looked like they were really in perfect form. It seemed like they kind of put everything together. At the plate, they didn't do terrible. I mean, the game was scoreless through 5 innings with the first run coming for the Smokies in the 6th inning. It was definitely a pitcher and defensive game. The Trash Pandas went up 3-2 going into the 9th, and this looked like it was going to be enough. We got some runs. We have a good lead. You know, we're in the 9th. Like, we're 3 outs away from another W on the road. However, the Smokies would, again, put together timely hits late into a game and go up 4-3 in this game and end up taking the win in the bottom of the 9th. And it's heartbreaking to see. You know, you're in a position, everybody's done their job, but sometimes it's just not enough.
I mean, do you think the Trash Pandas did anything wrong in that inning, or do you think it was just the Smokies really came out with the determination to win?
I think they had good pitching on the Smoky side as well, but I think the going 1 for 7 with runners in scoring position is just, and I think the best way to equate that is kind of similar to power plays. Right? You're not going to get all the power plays. You're probably not even going to get a great percentage in power plays. But you want to be on the better side of runners in scoring position. McCroskey got himself a dinger in the 8th for his 2nd on the year. And he's really shaping up to be a big part of this offense and a great shortstop that I think can do a lot of good for them in the middle. He can steal bases. He can hit the ball. He can hit the long ball. His defense as well. It's just finding those key pieces to close the game out. And we go into Sunday for the last game of the series, and the Trash Pandas really needed a win in this one, in my opinion. Not just for the record, but also for the confidence of the team. When you lose a lot of close games like that, kind of almost back to back to back, it's demoralizing. It's hard mentally. And baseball is one of those games that is 98% mental. Like, don't get me wrong, it's hard to hit 90-plus mile-an-hour fastballs. But there's so much more that goes into it and getting out of your head and into the moment playing these games. And at this point in the series, the Trash Pandas had only won 1 game, and that was on Friday. this would be a game that, again, would be kind of a pitcher's duel. Knoxville would strike first in the bottom of the 5th inning, and the Trash Pandas would respond in the 8th with 3 runs. Knoxville added 1 in the bottom of the 9th, making this a 3-2 game, and we're going into the 9th. And I think that as the Trash Pandas, how everything's gone in the back of your mind, you're going, oh man, not again. Like we got to do something different. Like, we can't let these guys come back and take it to us again. And it seemed like they needed to really buckle down and get the W. I think that was really important for them. And however, the Smokies would only add 1 in the bottom of the 9th and take this one into extra innings. And I kind of think that might have been a weight off for the Trash Pandas, knowing we can still fight. We're not out of this yet. We just need to get back to Trash Pandas baseball. And they did that in the 10th, scoring 4 runs. And we go into the bottom, and now it's, again, those 3 outs. We got to get 3 outs. And they did that while only giving up 1 run, and the Trash Pandas get the very much needed win on the road to make this 7-4. Osmond was on the mound and would lead the charge with 4 2/3 innings, only giving up 3 hits with 3 strikeouts and 1 walk. And again, this is a guy that we talked about last week that we should really keep an eye on. Very dominant force on the mound. Really great stuff. Great breaking ball. I'm excited to see how his season continues.
So you think they're going to play him a whole lot more this season?
He played a lot in this series alone, going little bits here and there. I think he's a guy that they can lean on a lot more. I would like to see him get a little bit longer into his outings. He threw 75 pitches and 47 for strikes, and I think that's not a terrible stat. In 4 2/3, you went almost 5 innings. But I would like to see a lot of these pitchers kind of get out of some of these innings, and I don't know if it's walks or, batters battling them off. There has to be something here that the Trash Pandas can kind of hone in on and get out of some of these innings with a smaller pitch count. Yovan would get the win on the mound for the Trash Pandas. He threw 1 1/3 inning with 1 run on 1 hit with 1 walk and 1 strikeout. So a lot of ones there for him. He faced 7 batters and threw 25 pitches with 15 of them going for strikes. Again, that's a dominant stat you want to have. Yovan's definitely their closer, I feel. He's a guy that can close the door. He can throw strikes and let the defense go to work. And like I said earlier, really, that's all you can ask from your pitcher. Throw strikes and let the 7 behind you do their job. That's what we have him here. That's what we pay him for. I think one impressive takeaway from for me at least, this weekend was the base stealing, the base running. I mean, they stole more times than they got caught, and I think that's going to be something that really helps them later into the season, perfecting getting good jumps. It shows that they have a really fast roster. I think that's really going to help them. And on the flip side of that, I think pitching is something that so far has been left to be desired for this team. I think they have a lot of other pieces to make a run as we move through the season. Like I said, I mean, we're 7-8 games into this. There's plenty of baseball left. But that's one thing that I would really like to see them make an improvement on is mainly on the mound.
Yeah, you talked about the base stealing. That's something where I feel like they're struggling at is leaving people on base.
Yeah.
So I think improving that, stealing bases, is going to help them when they have 0 to 1 outs, maybe 2 outs, to get that person to get to third.
Yeah, and I mean, it comes down to timely hitting. I mean, when you get a guy on second, hitting a fly ball is not bad, but you got to get it to the outfield. Yeah. You got to get that sac fly out there, With a runner on second, you need to hit to the right side of the diamond. You need to take the attention away from the runner and get that guy over there to third base. And I think that's something that they'll get better at as the season goes on. Those are kind of some things that I won't say are the easiest to fix, but they are all fixable issues that they're having right now. The Trash Pandas currently have a 4-5 record with the reigning champion Birmingham Barons coming in this weekend for this week, really, for an extended series. We're going to do another Tuesday to Saturday.
Well, Birmingham, they don't have a good record right now.
No, so getting into that, we're going to go over some standings here. It's really early, but in the North Division, we've got Chattanooga, who is absolutely lights out
Yeah,
on the
just even
diamond
looking at
right
the
now.
scoreboard, you can just tell.
They're 8-1.
Yeah, even just, I haven't watched them play much, but I can just glance over their scores, and you're just like, wow, what is this team doing? What do we need to watch for?
They're dominant, and they really took it to the Barons over their series last week. And then they're followed by the team that we just seen, the Knoxville Smokies at 5-4, and then the Trash Pandas on the flip side at 4-5. And the Bearings are on the tail end of the North at 3-6. So it'll be very interesting to see how this weekend goes. And I'd really like to see kind of where they are. And I know it's early and the Barons can still put in a lot of the work that they need. But I think that, winning the majority of this series can really do a lot for the confidence as well as for the standings. And in the South Division, you've got Columbus at 5-4. Biloxi, who we seen the first weekend, is tied for first with them at 5-4. Montgomery's at 3-5, and Pensacola's at 2-6. And we see Montgomery and Pensacola, and we see a lot of these people throughout the season. So we'll see how that shapes up. And I don't want to say that teams like Montgomery and Pensacola are easy wins, because there's no such thing as an easy win in this league. But I think that those can be very good tune-up games, confidence-building games. These can be some games where they can get hot and start a good win streak to move forward with.
Yeah, even though our record is not what we want it to be, have you seen areas where you think the coaching staff have helped the guys to improve?
Definitely, I have. The base running has been a big one for them. I think defensively, they've been able to do a lot more. There's less errors. I think pitching there's just a little piece that's off. And like I said, it's so early in the season. It doesn't take long for some guys to find that one piece that they're missing. And I mean, it could be something as minor as getting the changeup a little bit better, getting 2-3 mile an hour off the changeup, getting these guys to maybe be not so much on the top of their curveball and maybe a little bit behind it to get a little bit better control. I mean, baseball is a game of the little things, doing a lot of the little things right, and you can really see that difference come alive. I think the pitching coach has definitely got a little bit of work ahead of him, but I don't think it's something that, is bring the pitchforks, because we've got a problem.
Well, one guy that doesn't get talked about a lot is the catcher. Do you think the catcher's been doing a good job this year, catching some of the wild pitches?
He has.
And really just honing in and helping the pitcher?
He has. His framing has been really great, and that helps the pitcher a whole lot. If you've got a good catcher back there that can kind of fool the umpire and bring some of those low ones up, the insides in a little bit, the outsides in a little bit, a great catcher can make a good pitcher that much better.
Yeah, so, when you played catcher,
Yeah.
and now they play catcher, the equipment's a little different. Could you talk about the changes that they made?
It is. The leg pads in particular are so much different. They look a lot more comfortable. I would love to put a pair on and see how it is. I know when I played, it was like the 3-piece leg pads. So you had the shin guard, then you had the top thigh piece, and then the kneecap kind of went over top of that. And it was very bulky, and it made running a little bit hard. The way that the new ones are set up, they're very sleek, and I just feel like the movement's probably a little bit easier in those pads. So this week, like we said, we've got the Barons Tuesday through Sunday at home, and they've got some really cool nights coming up. Tuesday night, we have the Zach Nito jersey giveaway for the first 1,000 adults, along with the Tito's Tail Wagging Tuesdays. So we should see a lot of pups in the park. This is a give back kind of thing that they're doing on Tuesdays. There's no ticket needed for the pup. However, they are asking for a $1 donation for the animals that come in, and this donation helps supports the local nonprofit organizations in the area, along with dancing night. And I don't know what that looks like.
I don't know either, but I know I can't dance.
I can, but it takes a whole lot to get me there. So I'm interested to see what that looks like as far as a dancing night in the ballpark. I don't think I've ever really seen that. And the first pitch for this game Tuesday is at 6:05.
Yeah, well, dancing night just reminds me of some of the videos you see of some of the security guards dancing at the MLB games and just some of that, the mascot.
Yeah, the banana ball.
Yeah, maybe we'll get to see the mascot get out there and dance a little bit.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm sure it's going to be something on top of the dugouts in the 7th. I just don't know what it looks like yet.
Yeah, it's not going to be the 7th inning stretch. It's going to be the 7th inning line dance.
Yeah, that would be interesting to see. Wednesday, we have a very, very rare midday game. We have an 11 o'clock first pitch. However, after looking at the schedule, I understand now a little bit more why they did this. We only have 2 of those. One is home, one is away in Biloxi. This is an education day game. So this is more like a field trip for the kids. So I thought that was really cool to give the kids a little bit more of a controlled environment to come to, get out of school, and kind of come see some baseball, maybe spark some interest, get some kids involved in youth ball, and you never know what can come out of that.
They may put some fun education moments up on the board, and the players the announcer may get into some education moments and explain some things for them.
I think that might be a thing. I think this is more or less just a way to give back and kind of spark some interest in the community. We talk about how important the professional sports are.
So do you think it's going to be more like the school day showcase type deal that the Havoc do, or you think it's just going to be a regular game and just allowing the kids to come out?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a ball game that the kids get to come and watch. I think that it's really nice because it's a little bit more of a controlled environment for the teachers and parents and volunteers that come out for these games. And kind of able to keep track. It's that stadium gets really packed, and there's a lot of moving parts when you get in there on Friday and Saturday games. So I think having this early game gives them an opportunity to make sure they keep the kids safe for this one. Thursday, we have golf night and Throwback Thursday. They're going to have a live band from 5 to 6:30 and a first pitch at 6:35. And I know that usually a lot of ballparks, they call it Thirsty Thursdays. Mm-hmm. They're going to have $3 domestic drafts all game long. So that should make for an interesting one and get some people out there.
So with the golf night, think they're going to have like a little putt-putt course set up? Or
I'm unsure how they're going to do that.
I know when the Havoc did golf night, they had a putt-putt area set up.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how they do that on Thursday night and what all that entails.
Yeah, where do you think would be a good place if they did that to put that? Because there's a lot of...
I think they would have to do it in the concourse, but I think that there's so much movement. I don't know if you really can. There's a lot more going on inside the concourse at Toyota Field than there is at the VBC. Yeah. Friday, we get back into the fireworks. I know that is something that I've always enjoyed is watching the fireworks on Friday. And I don't think that there's anything better than fireworks, hot dogs, beer, and baseball. I mean, that's a kind of night. The Trash Pandas will also pay appreciation to the utility workers and do a utility worker appreciation night. That first pitch is at 6:35. Saturday is kind of a little bit of a laid-back night. 6:35 first pitch. Yeah. More fireworks. I know they said that that's something different they were doing this year, having 2 nights of fireworks. And again, I think their fireworks shows are phenomenal. So I can't wait for the 2 firework nights. Rounding out the weekend before a long road trip to Biloxi on Tuesday, the Sunday series, we will have Trash Panda Sundays. And this is where the lineup will be out pre-game. They get some autographs. They're going to have some face paint. Kids get to run the bases after the game. And I know when I was a kid going to the Zephyrs games in Louisiana, that was always my favorite game was Sundays. I don't know why, but you feel like such a big timer when you stand there at home plate and take off to first. I don't know. It feels different. This is also a Autism Awareness Night, and they're going to wear some specialty jerseys for this. That'll be auctioned off after the game. And this really puts a focus on raising awareness and supporting individuals and families across the autism spectrum in general. A huge night with a lot going on for such a great cause. Come out, support the local community, and who knows? I mean, you may win your favorite player's jersey in the auction. And
those jerseys really look cool.
Yeah.
I mean, for being autism, I think they really did good with all the colors and just everything. Because, my wife, she's a RBT in the school system dealing with kids with autism. and just getting to hear what she gets to interact with and
Yeah.
how she's helping them and supporting them just on a daily basis.
Yeah.
It's just fantastic. And that's what we need more of, people that have the energy to get in there and just say, hey, I know these kids are struggling and I want to help them. And this is gonna land a really good cause, because the place that is doing all this is right down the road from my work. So I drive by them all the time. I know they're doing good work in there.
Yeah. All right, so Saturday night, you and Tabby were able to make it down to Wicks Family Field. So tell me about, how was that? How was the environment? How did that go?
Well, we got there, and as we were walking in, you could hear, runners, get ready. And you could hear the countdown, 3, 2, 1, and then they were doing the 5K, and I heard good things in the 5K. People were that was just really a good turnout.
Good.
We didn't really get to go over to the 5K because we were focused on getting into the game and just getting.
There's a lot of setup that goes into getting into these games and preparing.
Yeah, you got to get through security. They got to tag your bags. They just got to do all the security things you go through. And then getting up to the press box is really, really cool because, we're right across the way from where the camera sits.
Yeah.
So it's like we were sitting in the middle of the game, and, we have a little chit-chat with our people from Birmingham, and he messaged us, hi, guys, and he had zoomed in and saw us sitting there, and we were having a good old time. Because, that they got to come out, just like if you watch a regular soccer match, like in the MLS, they come out with kids, and they get to walk past the ball. The ref grabs the ball as they come out, and that's how they do it there. They both teams walk out side by side. The ref grabs the ball. They do the smoke with the blue lights on it, and they get to come out and they line up, and then they say the national anthem, and it's just a different atmosphere than going to hockey or going to Trash Pandas. But just like in hockey, when we say ref, you suck, they say the exact same thing. they dog on the ref just like we do in hockey.
So before we dive into the matchup, one of the big things that I guess kind of the takeaway that I heard from Tabby was that while the players might not have grown up in Chicago, they were dirty. They played like they were in Chicago, and it was a dirty, grindy game from them.
They must have had too many of those Chicago dogs beforehand, because they had some Chicago dogs that they were selling.
Yeah. So do you feel it was the same way that the Chicago club kind of played dirty?
I just think they weren't necessarily playing dirty. They were like right there at that line, and were just playing chippy. They were playing really chippy, like Roanoke Yard Dogs play. That's how they were playing.
Oh, wow.
They were, yeah.
On the stat sheet, this was a match where Chicago Fire 2 FC won in a lot of categories, despite it being a 0-0 at the end of regulation. Chicago Fire 2 had 12 shots to HCFC 6, so double the amount of shots, and I feel like that's a crucial category.
Yeah, well, you see, their transition from offense to defense, they've really worked on that, honed on that. But it's just when they were on offense, it was just like they were getting the ball stolen, and Chicago was just taking off and just getting crosses on them. I mean, their defense was like right there the whole time, but Chicago was just getting around it, doing crosses. I mean, I just was like, wow. Like, I was just shocked sitting up there seeing that. But Huntsville still, with all that going on, the goalie, he played great in regulation. I mean, he was jumping, diving, blocking it. I mean, I was really impressed.
And the Chicago Fire 2 had 4 shots on goal compared to the HCFC's 1 shot on goal. And I feel like, again, this is another stat that you don't really want to be on that side of. I feel like having a lot of shots on goal, particularly, is kind of the side of the stats you want to be on.
Chicago's defense was really stout.
The Fire had 2 block shots to HCFC's 1. So, I mean, this was, looking at the stats, obviously I didn't get to go. I caught little clips of it. I was at the Havoc game, and we'll get into that a little bit more. But I just felt that this was a really close game, even though the stat sheet didn't really show that.
Yeah.
The surprising one for me, I felt that was the Chicago Fire 2 had more passes. And understand it was only 22 more with Chicago Fire having 473. to the 451 for the boys in blue, along with a better passing percentage. But that's one thing that I feel like the HCFC's really been dominant in their matches so far.
Well, one thing that really led to Chicago having more passes is when HCFC was passing the ball, it would get stolen. So it lended them more opportunities to pass the ball. Even though it was a minimal margin, that was the reason why.
So I looked at the stat sheet in another category that I know we've talked about are corners. Chicago Fire 2 had 4 corners to the boys in blues, none. And I feel like that's a really hard pill to swallow for Coach.
It is, but to go 0 for 4 on corners, that's not a good stat either.
No, it's not. I totally agree.
But like we've discussed before, corners are really hard because you're essentially like 30 yards away, and you're essentially having to just read what the defense is doing in the moment and try to kick in and just guess basically where your offense is to like hit the ball, kick the ball in, head it in. But 0 for 4 on corners, not good.
The other category that we've talked about a little bit before was crosses, and you spoke about it earlier. Chicago Fire had 6 crosses.
Yeah, they were really getting on offense.
I mean, it seemed like they were firing on all cylinders, so I would have to say you'd have to tip your hat to the HCFC and how well their defense played.
Yeah, when they were really transitioning and honing in on it, that Chicago just couldn't get around them. You know, Chicago's fire was just they put the flame out on them.
And we had 3 offsides in this one, so they definitely taken that number down. And I know that was something we talked about in their exhibition game, and you know how much Sullivan in general was offside. So they definitely cleaned that up. But it was 10 clearances to 2.
Yeah.
And the fouls in this game, like there was a lot.
Yeah, there was a lot of fouls.
The Chicago Fire 2 had 14, while our boys in blue had 12. They had 3 yellow cards to our 2.
That's a pretty high percentage yellow cards to foul.
Yeah,
the ref didn't hesitate to pull it out when he needed to.
But at least it seems like the refs kept control of this game.
Yeah, the refs really did. Even the refs that were doing the offsides, they were catching it early. They weren't letting it get down towards the goal. They were catching it early.
Good, and that's kind of what's needed, especially when you have a team like Chicago Fire 2, who you said is very scrappy and chippy. I mean, you've got to stay on top of it, or those things can get out of hand pretty fast. The Fire goalie had 2 block shots compared to the 1 from the HCFC, so he definitely did his job there. And it seemed like we had a lot of guys that played a full 90 minutes. And I think that's got to be something that's rare in soccer.
Well, if you look at who was starting, who was subbing, Muhammad wasn't on the roster at all.
No.
They didn't really say where he was or what was going on with him, but he wasn't there. And then Eck at one point got minorly injured. And we were just like, oh, wow. He was down. He was hobbling his left leg. Something's going on there.
So do you think not having Muhammad was something that kind of hindered the HCFC some?
Yeah.
I mean, he's obviously one of their better goal scorers.
Yeah, I really think it did. I mean, him and Eck just really mesh.
Yeah.
And those 2 guys are our main scorers in a sense, and they really help with the passing, and they know how to pass without allowing the other team to get an interception on the ball mid pass. That's a lot of things that the younger guys that were out there and the guys that were really relying on him were just seemed like to struggle with a little bit.
So we went into the end of this one, into regulation, into stoppage, 0-0. And you have to think that after what we've seen the boys in blue do in other shootouts, that they would be in a pretty good position. However, they would only hit 50%, 2 for 4. Eck and Perino scored in their attempts. However, the Chicago Fire 2 were on fire for this, going 4 for 5. I have a few questions for you. So during that shootout, was the Chicago Fire 2 shots just that much better? Or do you think it was more of a fatigue thing from the goalie? Or
I think it was a combination of both. The goalie seemed to be in the right position, but he was just missing it. Just barely missing it. But
so he was there. It was just right out of the fingertips.
There may have been one where he was way out of position, but the rest of them he was like it's just like in hockey, you know. Sometimes you're right there on the puck and it just slides by. It's just sometimes that's how it is. But you know what's great about those shootouts is where they do the shootouts. You know, on camera it can look a little different. like on the camera, it looks like they're on the right side of the field, but from our viewpoint, they're on the left side of the field, down where the lawn is and where the kids' area is.
Yeah.
And that lawn was packed out.
Was it?
And when Chicago was getting ready to shoot out, they were just screaming and hollering. You know, it's just like when we do a shootout in hockey, we screaming and hollering. They were getting on the drums, were going.
So was it a good turnout crowd-wise?
Yeah, it was a really good turnout, especially for the Havoc having their playoff game.
Yeah.
I was really impressed that there was a great turnout.
So what would you say was the big difference maker for the HCFC to keep this game scoreless going into regulation? Into regulation.
Just our goalie. I mean, he played well in regulation time. And going into the shootout, yeah, you could say some fatigue, some tiredness. So, going into our shootout, our goalie, he really was just right there at it. He was really, I felt like, doing his best in that shootout. And sometimes you just miss, and you don't really understand why. Like, you were there, you felt like you were there, and it just didn't come. I just think they're going to watch the film, and they're going to be able to understand, hey, when you're in a shootout and a player does this, you can move this way, or a player does this, you can transition this way.
So we'll move into the Havoc. We started playoff hockey over the weekend. The second place Havoc traveled to Knoxville on Friday night to take on the 7th-ranked Ice Bears in a best-of-3 series. The game in series as a whole was extremely chippy. And I feel like the refs, I don't know how I feel about the refs. I'm going to rephrase that. I don't know how I feel about it. I think that there were some instances, there should have been some calls, but I also understand the refs not wanting to decide games.
Yeah, I was really surprised they didn't kick Reggie out of the game on Friday. As much as he was fighting and getting chippy.
Well, I don't know, because him and Mundinger both kind of went at it there. I think it was a little bit of both of them, and I don't think it would have been fair to eject Reginato, especially with Mundinger did kind of bully him a little bit down there, if we're being honest. This game was a barn burner Friday night. Very back and forth game. And no team really took a big lead or held on to a lead for an extended period of time. I think the surprising thing for me is watching the game from at home was that it looked empty. I mean, compared to when me and Tabby went in the middle of March, that place was packed. So to see how they panned around the crowd, there wasn't a lot of people there for a Friday night.
Yeah, we saw a lot of wood seats open. I was just like, where's the crowd? It's like I've been saying with Evansville, where's your crowd?
We'll start this one out early. Cole Golka gets on the board early with a goal, getting one in the 5-hole past Mundinger, and that's something that's extremely hard to do. Mundinger takes up a lot of goal. He has extremely long legs. He can definitely block some shots. And it seemed, especially as early as Cole Golka scored, I really thought that they were really going to take it to him. However, McKinney would show why he is one of the best on their roster, and especially during the playoffs for the Ice Bears, as he scores the next 2 goals to tie this one up and then take the lead. McKinney is a player that plays extremely hard, extremely chippy. And he can shoot the puck for sure. And he always seems to just be in the right place at the right time. However, Jack Janich would say, not so fast, my friend. And we are forged in the night. So he scored a goal late in the first period, sending this one tied up in an intermission. And like we said earlier, Mundinger got a penalty for unsportsmanlike conduct along with Reginato. And those two kind of went at it the entire series. That was kind of just the start of the chip and block.
I think him doing that was kind of getting his rust off of him. I think he was using that as a way to, like, let me get the rust
kind
off.
of pump himself up.
Let me get back into the game. But what was very fascinating is that Knoxville, before the game started, they said, we're going to give free beer until the opposing team scores.
That didn't last long.
And to have Cole Golka, a guy who's been struggling to get goals, come out and just ruin that for him.
Well, and here's the funny part of that. So after that happened, because it happened so fast, they extended it 10 minutes. So they extended it halfway through the first period.
So you weren't even halfway through your first beer, and you were just
Gone.
like gone.
Yep. So Jimmy Soper would score the lone goal of the second period, and you could just feel the tension and that this was playoff hockey.
Playoff hockey, yes.
And it was completely different on the ice than what it has been for these two teams. Both teams had a lot less penalty in the second period and buckled down defensively. In the third period, the Ice Bears would score a goal early and take a 2-goal lead, and things kind of looked like they weren't going to go the Havoc's way for this game one. However, the Havoc are warriors. They battle back with a goal from Kessner to bring them within one, and then he scores another one to tie it up halfway through the third. And it looked like we might get a third period hat trick.
We wanted the hat trick.
I mean, he was hats off to Josh Kessner. He played amazing.
I mean, you could tell from just seeing the image of him sticking his head out the window on the bus, having that energy. He carried that same energy all the way through the game.
The third period is kind of where I felt like things were a little out of hand. Almost every penalty, the ref sent someone to the box from both teams.
Yeah. There
was never really an opportunity to get a power play. I mean, two guys would go to the box. We'd skate 4-on-4. I mean, there was no definitive. It was like, okay, you caused the foul, you retaliated, both you boys to the sin bin.
So just in your eyes, did it seem like from the first and the second period to the third period they were calling the game differently?
No, I don't. I think they called the whole series the same way. I just don't think it was fair. I think that when you have guys committing penalties and you don't call it, and then that continues, and then penalties continue to happen, and a team retaliates, and now both of you two go to the box. And while I understand the mindset of letting the boys play, letting the guys battle it out, I think the game has rules for a reason, and their entire job is to enforce those. And the Ice Bears definitely put themselves in positions where they shouldn't have been. More power plays for the Havoc than there actually was. I just feel that the Ice Bears did a very good job of being disruptive, whether that be on the boards, in the middle of the ice, stealing passes. Nonetheless, we head into an overtime, tied up for some bonus hockey. The rules are a little bit different in playoffs than they are in regular season. Regular season, you skate 3-on-3.
Yeah.
You know, obviously sudden death, that doesn't work out. You go to a shootout.
Yeah.
However, in the playoffs, that's not the case. It's 20-minute periods, 5-on-5, first to score wins. There is no shootout. And I think that was something that the Havoc had done well, was being in shootouts with the roster that they have. Going into the game so far, we knew it wasn't going to be quick. This was going to be a game that was going to battle it out. Both teams knew it wasn't going to come easy. And the overtime period really showed that. We had a scoreless overtime period, very defensive, very limiting each other as far as offense. Not a lot of penalties, but just stifling defense from both teams.
Not a lot of scoring opportunities. Also it's getting late in the night too.
Yeah.
So they're tired and they're ready for it to end. They're trying everything to score.
Yeah, and you go through the first period, the first overtime period. So at this point, you've played 80 minutes of hockey.
Yeah.
And that is absolutely exhausting for how much energy those guys put out during those short shifts. And credit to both teams coming out and fighting and continue to grind. Nobody really laid down. However, the Ice Bears would find the net early into the second overtime period and give themselves the win at home before traveling to VBC in what turned to be a must-win game for the Havoc.
Yeah, I think the Havoc really did the best they could that night, because you have to think they ended the season at Macon on the road, then went to Quad City on the road for 2 games, and then came to Knoxville. So having 4 games, I don't really feel like that was the best of setups to end their season for the Havoc going into playoffs. So that played a lot into it as well.
The Havoc were highly penalized with 34 minutes compared to the 28 minutes from the Ice Bears. The Havoc were 2 for 8 on power plays, while the Ice Bears were 1 for 5 on power plays. The Havoc were outshot in this one 50-43. And I mean, that's a lot of shots on goals for both teams. And typically when the Havoc shoot 37 or more times, 9 out of 10, they win those games.
Yeah.
Especially with how good Brian Wilson is in the net. In the first 2 periods, the Havoc had 17 shots on goal for the game. And that is a typically low stat for them through 2 periods. So you have to kind of tip your hat to the Ice Bears as playing a lot of offensive hockey and not a lot of defensive hockey. But I felt like in the third period is where they really began to move the puck well, played a lot more on the offensive zone, got a lot more shots. And again, in the overtime period, they dominated shots on goal, 12-7. And quite a few times they looked like they were really going to finish this game off in overtime. And, I mean, all you could do is tip your hat to Mundinger.
Yeah.
He did a great job. He made some really great stops. Brian Wilson as well, I think, did a tremendous job. He had quite a few more pucks come his way, but he did well getting stops. I think that there were a few times where we didn't really do ourselves favors by helping them with goals. And I think that was kind of the difference maker in this one was mistakes.
Yeah, but you got to look at our record against Knoxville over the season. We really hadn't played good against them.
No, we haven't. They've definitely had our number this year. So we move into Saturday for the playoff hockey game in the VBC. And this is a must-win game for the Havoc. And I have to really, really give a huge, huge credit to the Havoc fans. When I tell you they showed up and showed out, this was the most electric, loudest that the VBC has been all year, and it's not even close.
Yeah, and I hate I had to miss it, but I was at the soccer match.
I hate that for you guys too. 6,200 plus showed up, and it was definitely the rowdiest hockey fans. I mean, that place erupted multiple times. It started early, Cole Reginato getting a goal, and you know how much the Havoc fan base loves Reggie.
Oh,
so
yes.
The place absolutely went crazy. And I thought the roof was going to come off. I mean, it was jumping. The pregame light show and intros were different than they have been all season. I very much enjoyed the new light show and just everything that went along to the production before the game.
Yeah.
That was definitely something different.
I feel like coming into playoffs, you almost expect it to be a little different because you want a different hype, you want a different vibe, because the playoffs are elevated to a different level.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, but I mean, it was way different of a level. They had lights that shine from both sides of the arena onto where the scoreboards sit on each side. Lights all there. The light show on the ice was different. They brought in the red lights at the top. I mean, it was a completely different setup than what we've seen all year. Jimmy Soper would come through and answer Cole Reginato's goal just over 5 minutes later. And the big one for me was Josh Kessner starts to get a breakaway. He's making himself a good run at the goal, gets fouled, and setting himself up for a penalty shot. And if I've learned anything about the Havoc this season, it has been that Josh Kessner is not the guy that you want to give a free penalty shot or a shootout to. I mean, that guy is lights out one-on-one. And he proved it. He had Mundinger absolutely fooled. Crossed Mundinger's face and shot it back net. I mean, he backdoored him.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. So that was a whole lot of fun. And with him being the hometown guy, it erupted inside. Everybody was screaming. Everybody's blowing the horns. The bells are going crazy. And, you know, I have a horn, and there's a lot of times where I'll kind of get my section going, and it'll kind of grow. I mean, by the second time you do the little horn chant, you could hear them on the other side starting. I've never seen the VBC like that, so that was awesome.
Yeah, you know, I don't know Kessner's stats on his shootouts, but if I had to guess, I'd say they're pretty high.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, you know, I've noticed.
I think he's made more than he's missed, and I don't think that's close.
Yeah, you know, I've noticed over the season, you know, how Reggie came in as the favorite. The first time they introduced Josh Kessner, and they said the word Huntsville, people just fell in love with him right then and there.
And he's a great guy. I've had some chances to talk with him, and I absolutely love Josh Kessner. He's just his attitude, his vibe, super nice guy, super personable.
He's a true family man.
He
puts his family first and foremost before that hockey.
He is, and he's super funny. I love talking with him. He cracks me up. He really does. So we end the first period, and the Havoc would have a 2-1 lead, and it seemed like we were going to make a push. We're going to have a Monday night game here in the VBC. And the Ice Bears would say, it's too early to count us out, big guy. And they'd tie it up with the lone goal of the second period, making it 2-2. Very similar to Friday night. I mean, it's neck and neck for what it felt like. And it would make for a very, very exciting third period. The stadium's buzzing, and I felt like everyone in the crowd's confidence was really high. If one thing we've seen from the Pack all year is that they dominate third periods. When it comes to closing the door on games, they're damn good at it.
Especially at home.
Yeah, especially at home. It was dead even in penalties at this point, and the Havoc played well, but the Ice Bears wouldn't stop grinding either. They scored a goal less than halfway into the period, and the Havoc would continue to grind and, again, playing a great third period, good passing, good defense. And they couldn't find the net. We pull Wilson with right around 45 seconds or so, and with less than 30 seconds, the Ice Bears would ice it, and they would score an empty net goal.
Yeah.
I felt the Havoc did all things right. They passed well. They played good defense. They did well on penalty kills. Brian Wilson did a good job stopping pucks, especially after playing a barn burner Friday night bus ride home. I mean, both the Havoc and the Ice Bears had to be exhausted. It was 11, a little after, right around 11 Central Standard Time when they finished. A little over a 4-hour ride back, so it's 4 a.m. before they get the bus unloaded. They got a 10 a.m. skate to stay on routine. I mean, I think everybody was exhausted.
But more so than being tired, I think this was an emotional game for the Havoc. You could just from watching a little bit I did and seeing the videos online and stuff. You could just see the emotions behind the Havoc. It
was a tearjerker towards the end. I just felt that they had less penalties, 49 shots on goal, good defense. They had a really hard time getting it past Mundinger, and I mean, understandably so. I mean, he's a huge human being, 6'8" in the pipes, long legs, great reach with his long arms. I mean, he's a guy that is extremely hard to score lots of goals on.
Yeah, but if you look at last year's team versus this season's team, I think you really see how the fans connected more so with the team this year than last year. I know you weren't there last year to see that team. But it was just different this year. It really felt like a family-style team.
Yeah.
Like just being in the Booster Club and getting to interact with them. The players just talked well about each other, and they just seemed like brothers.
Yeah, they definitely gelled well. And, I respect hockey players and their abilities and everything that they do for their teams and for their communities. But if there's one guy that I am not a fan of, it is McKinney. I don't know why McKinney rubbed me the wrong way the way he did, but I felt like he got away with a lot. I felt like there were some things that should have been called, and I felt like there were some things that he embellished to sell on to get some of these penalties. And that may not be the case, and that may just be my opinion. I don't think that there's anything necessarily wrong with how he plays. It's just something about his style really just burns my chaps.
So do you think from Friday to Saturday, you think the refs really called both games evenly?
I don't think that my personal opinion is I don't think that they called the games evenly. I think Friday night the Havoc got pounded with penalties, and a lot of them that got called on Friday didn't get called on Saturday. And then when something would happen, it was always very even, and two guys would go to the box, one from each team. So I didn't feel like teams really got penalized for committing penalties. It was just well, you both did something wrong, so you both go to your room. You know, it was like a sibling fight where you didn't want to say which one was actually wrong. You just send them both off. I think for me, the saddest part about this game was obviously the season coming to an end. But looking at the players on the ice after, seeing the exhaustion in their demeanor, the disbelief, and the sadness. I mean, a lot of the players came onto the ice and just put their hands on their knees and just looked around like, what just happened? Shock really took over. And I know as a competitor and somebody who's been in sports, man, it hurts. It hurts so bad. Losing games like that, being just right there and not being able to seal the deal. And I was a little bit angry as a fan. You know, after the empty net goal happened, half the stadium cleared out. That made me so mad. These guys go out. I mean, it's not like they get paid millions of dollars. Some of them have second jobs or take summer jobs, and they go out daily and practice and hone their crafts and put everything out there for our entertainment. And I felt disrespected for the guys. Like, I mean, the traffic is going to be what it is. Just because you run out of the stadium isn't going to change anything. I just felt it was very disrespectful for some of the fair weather fans to hurry up and run out instead of giving the boys one final cheer that they earned and deserved.
You know, this season, every game I've been to, I sat there to the final. No matter if they won or lost, it's ride or die. Because that team is a Huntsville team, and I support Huntsville sports.
I left early one game, when we traveled to Knoxville.
Yeah,
after the big fight happened in Knoxville, and I believe McKinney and Soper were in those as well. I was so frustrated with how the game was officiated, and there were some people who chirped and got under my skin, which is pretty rare when it comes to me being a fan. The long drive back, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
But that's the only game that I've left early. Win, lose, or draw, I've stayed for every game at home. I can't imagine leaving the boys like some of the people do. And I get traffic and kids, and I do, but at the same time, what's 5 minutes?
Yeah.
You know?
But, we got to talk about Guy and Jacob Murphy for a second there. They did a fantastic job.
All season long.
So do you think one of them may win the Announcer of the Year award?
I do. I think Jacob Murphy's going to take it. Being in the SPHL fan group and the amount of love and support that he's gotten, I really hope he takes it, especially as I think this is their first full season as announcers, and I love the way he calls games. So I really hope that Jacob Murphy gets the Announcer of the Year.
I thought just watching Flo after the soccer match.
Yeah.
I think Guy did a really fantastic job of closing it out for the season.
Yeah.
And you could just hear the emotion behind his voice and how sad he was that this is over. He wanted it to continue. You can tell how much he loves hockey. We know Jacob Murphy loves hockey. You can hear what he calls.
Hear it, yeah.
But Guy just brings that emotion side to it and brings it down to the realness of just these are true human beings playing hockey.
So there were some guys on the ice that were pretty emotional. I remember Dom kind of just looking around, and Dom's kind of a guy. He's always chewing gum. He's always got a smile on his face, and he didn't have that demeanor about him, and it kind of worried me about what his future looks like with the Havoc. And he had that this could be the last time look on his face, and that hurt a lot. I think the other one that really stood out to me, and it broke my heart to watch, was after the game, Kessner skates over to his wife and his kids, and
I saw that.
Has a very long embrace and does what felt like a final lap around the ice, and the crowd that was there, the fans that were there, stayed and really cheered him on. And then he kind of skated over to Lindsay, who was in his nice suit, and gave him a hug and kind of sat there for a minute in his shoulder before they went into the prayer circle. And while I can understand if this is Josh Kessler's last game, I hope not. I think he is a solid veteran for the team, an amazing guy, a great spirit. But I can understand having 2 kids, how much time hockey demands, and how much being the family man that he is demands as well.
But even if he doesn't come back and play, I wouldn't mind seeing him on the coaching staff in the future.
And I don't think that's out of the possibility. And it might be to where he goes and coaches at his alma mater and goes back to UAH. I don't think that Kestner's going to leave the area, and I think he's a guy that even if he does decide to retire, you'll still see in the concourse.
Kestner loves Huntsville. Being born and raised here. Yeah. I mean, his family moved to Michigan because of his dad's job, and he came back here. He chose, out of all the places to go play hockey, he chose Huntsville, Alabama. Just something about his hometown just really drew him back here.
The other one that I felt kind of had a very similar look was Cole Reginato. Reginato was our longest standing Havoc, and he kind of did the same thing, kind of the small skate around, looking around, taking it all in. And I think some of these guys that are a little bit older definitely have some hard decisions to make as what their future looks like. I hope that they take some time, let the emotions die down. It's very easy to make an emotional decision and figure out what's best for them. I hope all 3 of those guys return. And I would really, really like to see what this roster looks like next year. I think they're going to make some changes. There's some guys that they could probably move around. I think there's some guys that they got back that really did a lot for the team as far as morale, setting them up for positions to score, whether that be assists, goals, or even just being one more person that the opposing team has to look to.
One guy I want to see come back next year? Well, there's actually 2 guys. No, three guys.
Okay, let me have it.
Alex Proctor. I just love his energy.
I think he'll definitely be back.
Cam Cook.
I think you'll see Cam Cook and Dawson Sherino.
Those are my 3. The 3 new guys that came on the scene.
Lindsay's got to be back.
Yeah, Ethan Lindsay. He's definitely going to come back.
I think that they're starting with a good core to build forward, knowing that there are some older guys with Dom, Reggie, Kestner. Galley's not young anymore either, and some of these Yannick's not young.
Yeah, Connor
Risk
Fries
isn't young. Fries isn't young, and they are still young in life, but hockey does have an age limit, so to say, unless you're a guy like Alex Ovechkin who's going to play till he's 100.
Yeah, I wouldn't play that long.
I mean, the grade 8's insane.
Yeah,
what a beaut. I would like to give a shout out to a little bit here. First to the Huntsville Havoc organization. I can't express the gratitude that I have for what you do for the community, as well as growing my love personally in our household for the sport. Growing up in Louisiana, hockey isn't a very big sport there. I mean, we had an ECHL team at one time, and they've got the FPHL team now, but it's not something that's really pushed a lot down there. And this organization and this Huntsville Havoc team has really given me a new sport that I've absolutely fallen in love with. Shout out and thank you to all the players going out there, playing your hearts out week in and week out, despite the energies, the losses, putting the personal lives on hold. Some of these guys are from Canada and, putting everything on the line for their love of hockey and playing a great game that they all love. It's awesome to see. To the coaches, spending all the time that they have getting these guys ready, putting them in positions to win, and going out there week in, week out, passing on their knowledge and passion for the game, and having the common goal as the players to win a championship. Win or loss, it's been a pleasure to watch and cheer on the Havoc on the road, at home. I watch parties. I have met and talked to quite a few of the players, and each one of those guys are absolutely amazing human beings who have stopped everything that they were doing to talk to fans, sign autographs, have conversations. They've all been super personable and kind, and I can't think of enough for the memories that I've been able to create, and I can't wait to make many, many more in Huntsville with the Havoc. To the Havoc fan base, again, thank you This was Tabby and I's first year in Huntsville, and it's very scary going to a new place and kind of fitting in with a fan base. And we were accepted by so many with open arms and really made to feel like part of the Havoc family, and I'm very appreciative of that. The kindness, the generosity, and the love this fan base has for their team is unmatched. And that's coming from somebody who diehard LSU fans. I've never seen a fan base that is more open, willing, and loving, and anybody will talk to you. October seems so far away, but I can't wait for another season.
6 months away.
I can't wait for another season to cheer alongside Havoc and everybody else.
That'll be your first time being season ticket holder.
It will be. We're going to be season ticket holders next year. All right, Frazier. Well, that's all of my shout-outs for the week. Is there anything else from you?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to the Booster Club this year for really just supporting the guys and getting anything they needed, with that being grocery card supporters, that just being doing Chuck-a-Puck and being out there, and the buttons that they've made.
The meals.
Yeah, the meals. That
making sure the guys are fed for both teams.
And doing the parties for the guys, just really showing support for them, and just the way the guys brag on our Booster Club, and that there's nothing just like it, and just for the guys that leave and they come back as a visiting team, just the way they talk about just the meals. It was like David Novotny came back and we talked to him. He said, "Oh, I got to go eat," because he knew that we were giving them good meals, and just the way that they bring the families in for the players, and they get to see their mom and dad, just to have those moments that a lot of organizations don't give to the players. Just a shout out to the Booster Club for that.
That's it.
That'll be all for this week.
All right. Well, until next week, stay strapped in. We're in orbit.